It's hard to make a change in life, but it can be even harder to not make that change. I mean, really think about it. You know, if you want to lose weight or get into shape, that's hard. If you need to get out of financial trouble or improve your finances, that's hard. If you want to pivot out of a life that you don't like or isn't fulfilling or isn't rewarding or doesn't fit what you need, that's hard. But it's even harder to not do those things. It's even harder to suffer the consequences of bad health. It's even harder to be in financial trouble. It's even harder to live the drip, drip, drip every day of misery from a life that you don't like. So if they're both hard, why not choose the one that really works for you and makes a difference? It's hard. In fact, actually, I would say not doing it is harder because you also feel like a complete loser. You hate yourself because you're not making those changes. This is an incredible first step to getting past that resistance that we all have. Resistance is the most insidious mental disorder that all human beings suffer from. We resist things for a multitude of, ego reasons and old, outdated, self-limiting beliefs that never existed or were true or aren't anymore. And also the way we evolved as a human species, we are literally wired against change as a defense mechanism, but it can be overcome and it takes some rationality. This is pretty rational. Mr. Spock would say this is logical. So how do we leverage this? Well, first of all, it's identifying that fact, saying, I don't really want to get into shape. I don't really want to change my life, but I need to and I want to, and I don't want to feel like a jerk 10 years from now or on my deathbed saying I never went for it. Okay, whatever works for you, it's coming to that realization that if they're both hard, I'm going to choose the one that's going to benefit me the most. Now, once you've done that, here are some ways to really make it a success, get momentum, and get results. So number one is get really clear. I mean, specifically clear on what that end result looks like. I mean, what does it look like? Get in detail. Write down a list or whatever of it looks like this, and I'm in this situation. You want it like any goal, like any standard that you're trying to create, because the standards you live to are much higher than goals are more likely of reaching. The more specific you are, the more you know exactly what it is you're going for, and the more you're able to envision it. And I'm a huge believer in what's called the power of intention, that you get back what you put out. You think you need or want more money, then you keep needing and wanting more money. But when you do this envisioning and you're like, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like, then you are more likely to succeed at it. And it also helps give you clarity as to what you need to do in order to get there. And it gives you targets and things of that sort. Now, the next thing though is that sometimes if let's say, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week for the next month, or I'm going to run a marathon in 6 months or whatever, that's a fine goal. But if you're only focused on that big thing, that's daunting. The road to that can be very hard. I am a huge fan of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And when he talks atomic habits, atomic meaning not an atomic bomb, although it can have that kind of result in a positive way, but it's little atomic habits, little things that you do well that then add up. One of my favorite ones is focus on the next 1%. So, that big goal can be very daunting and that can cause resistance. That can make it hard for you. But like for me, if it's going to the gym, I go up and get my gym bag. That's the first 1%. And then every other 1% goes forward. I'll even think of things like, I'm really tired and I don't want to go, but I'm going to go to the gym, and if I spend 30 minutes there, I will consider that a success. Or I got to write a chapter. I got to get this chapter written. But my goal is every morning is that I'm going to write 2 crappy pages of copy, because some days that's the way it's going to be. More often than not, I flow and I roll, but I don't have this daunting expectation on me. Another thing that ties into all of this is change the way you think. change the way you react. Become aware of that. You know, the studies say there anywhere from 70 to 90% of the thoughts that we have every day are the same. And so are our habits, and so are our reactions. And you want to make a change, you got to change your habits. You got to change your automatic thinking. You know, so it can be changing your morning routine, but it can also become aware of how are you reacting and thinking about things, you know, where attention goes, focus flows, and you start catching yourself like, oh, I'm reacting like that. I'm not being very conscious, or I'm just thinking this, and I've always thought it, but it's like I don't want to think that anymore. That's not helping me. So it's becoming aware of that and changing a lot of different things, which then helps you change with the big things. Another thing is the awareness and being true and honest as to how it's going to be hard, that you're going to run into some roadblocks, that you're going to maybe have some self-doubt. I know that with me doing New Way Forward, it's funny. It's somehow between brushing my teeth and getting in bed, it's when I get the thought of, oh, Paul, you are totally screwing this up. You're going to be an unmitigated failure. This is never going to work, or whatever. But I know to expect that, because I have heard from hundreds of other people who have successfully built something, transitioned to something, or gotten into shape or whatever, that they will have those self-doubts, that that's normal and that'll happen. And so the beauty is that I'm pulling down the covers going, oh my God, I'm a complete God, and boom, all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I know that this is going to happen. I know that this is to be expected. Shut up, go to bed, and tomorrow I'm going to kick butt. So know to expect that. Another thing is to realize, and again, this comes brilliantly pointed out by James Clear, short-term pain for long-term gain, short-term gain for long-term pain. So in other words, you know, the easiest analogy is you want to have that piece of chocolate cake. So in the short term, it's very gratifying, but long-term, coupled with other unhealthy eating habits, you're going to have some negative consequences of it. Conversely, not having that chocolate cake is short-term pain, but you're going to have long-term gain from it. So it's always easier for us to take that short-term gain, pleasure, or even, I don't want to deal with this now. I don't have to deal with it, but you're going to keep having to deal with it. So know that those short-term decisions and choices that you make are going to, in the long term, pay off. That's a little more challenging for us to do, but the payoff is worth it. And last but not least, and this is a really, really big thing, is give yourself applause. Give yourself positive recognition for everything you do. I mean, the littlest thing to the biggest thing. The fact that you even just tried. Give yourself credit for it within yourself. You know, think about it. You know, if you're raising a kid or with a loved one or someone else, and you want to give them praise, you want to give them encouragement. When they do well, you want to say to them, good job. We never do that with ourselves. We want to say good job because that helps them, that encourages them, that makes them feel good. But we don't do that with ourselves. And it's even, there's a researcher out at Stanford University, BJ Fogg, that talks about doing these little micro habits. And at the end, and BJ's kind of an enduring nerd, you know, he does 50 push-ups a day because every time he needs to go to the bathroom, he does 5 push-ups. And every time he does those little micro habits, and his research shows, he goes, I'm amazing, you know, to himself. But it works. It actually reinforces what you're doing, and it makes you feel good. What a concept. And it makes you positive about what you're doing and the fact that you're going to get results. So, bottom line, choose your hard. Choose the one that's going to be beneficial to it. One step at a time. Be clear on what it is and what it looks like. Be aware that you're going to have some struggles, and that's okay. Change your thinking, change your habits, and change the way you regard yourself. Give yourself credit for doing it. If you like this, there's a lot more on YouTube. Also, there's even more on newwayforward.com. That's newwayfwd.com. There you can subscribe. You'll get a free newsletter regularly. You'll get special updates, and you'll get a free download to help you step by step get going
on your new way forward.